On this video, I will explain you how the recap tabs work and what you can or must do with it. There are two types of recap tab. The first one is a recap by nature. This tab is organized by account codes. The other one is a recap analytic. This recap is organized by destination code or by activity code. Let's focus on recap by nature. The principle remains the same for analytic recap. This recap by nature is a very important part of the metrics for the BMR. BMR being done every month, this overview changes over time. These changes must be identified and explained. In particular, the BMR analysis must include explanations on silification variances when comparing the financial overview with the last validated budget. In the Recap Nature tab, the budget is summarized by account. The budget summarizes by account all the costs past and future of the project for 1 year of activity. It is possible to group or ungroup to see details per account or just per account family using the buttons 1, 2, 3. Or just the plus and minus. The cost of the project for the BMR period, 2011-3 in this matrix, is in column Y and called full year projection. This is the sum of actual data which was imported in the matrix and available in the U column, or simulations in the V column. For example, for the account 60,000, an international order was placed for 157,500 Swiss francs. This is also the sum of forecasts for the remaining months and which are updated in this matrix. The sum of details per month, columns H to S. For more detailed data, you can directly use the export details. I invite you to use the corresponding video to see how to use it. This tab allows to make analysis. Reviewing the by account codes allows to identify potential mistakes or at least to ask questions, especially for linear expenses, the same expenses every month. For example, for the account 61,200, fuel, the first 3 months are lower than the monthly forecast. It may be interesting to understand if it is really necessary to keep higher amount, for example, if we have an increase of activity, or if it is more realistic to reduce the forecasted amounts. This tab also allows to do some analysis using the percentage spent in the Z column. It can be a good indicator to question the budget of the project. This percentage can be compared to the time spent in the U10 cell. It is even more relevant at the end of the year. If the time spent is 75% and the budget spent is 45%, we can wonder if it is realistic to plan to spend the remaining budget, 55%, in a very short period, 25%, which is 3 months. The most important analysis is to analyze the current financial situation with the last validated budget. This is the purpose of the BMR done every month. This recap allows comparing the current budget situation, full year projection, with 2 other periods in the matrix, as explained in the video 2.7 about freezing matrices, by selecting the relevant periods to compare in cell F6 and F7. The analysis must focus in priority on the most significant variations. MSF rule is to focus on accounts with variations above 5,000 Swiss francs and above 10% are empty. Those can be positive or negative variations. Let's take some examples. For the account 60,000 medicines, we can see a variation of more than 5,000 Swiss francs, but less than 10%. So this variation is worth noticing, but we are not obliged to write down a comment about it. For the account 60,020 medical kit, we can notice a variation that is less than 5,000 Swiss francs, but there is no percentages. It doesn't mean that there is no variations, but it means that the initial budget did not include some spending about this particular account. Let's find another example. For the account 64,000 international freight by air, we can notice a variation of more than 5,000 Swiss francs and more than 10%. On the other hand, for the 64,010 account, other international freight, we can also notice a variation that is more than 5,000 Swiss francs and more than 10% of the budget. Those variations would legitimate an exchange with the team in order to find out why and write it down as a comment. The analysis consists in different steps. First of all, understanding the reason of the variations. First, in terms of resources, bigger or smaller quantities, unit prices, exchange rate compared to Swiss franc. This can be done using the export detail to see the real differences, detailed forecast, and compare it to previous period details. To identify variation must be discussed and confirmed with the HR or the supplies. The second makes a link to the operations and the activities. These variations in quantities, price, exchange rate must be explained operationally. More activity because increase of beneficiaries, because the organization of the hospital was not adapted. This is very important to avoid justification like increase because it was not well planned in the initial budget. This is why it is very important for finance to get involved in the daily activities to better understand the evolution and the financial impact. The second step of the analysis is to summarize these explanations in the column comment AF. At least, please comment on accounts with variation of more than 5,000 Swiss francs and 10% compared to the initial budget, per family using the group 1 to group by family. Even if there is no variation at the family level, it must include a summary of the main variation by account of the family. And for total project, cell AF 157. It must be synthetic. It will be used in the cash request. The total budget variation is important. Remember, the head of mission must ensure the respect of the general budget for each project of the mission. In case of significant variation, and particularly if there is a risk of overspending identified, in this project we have a risk but it is not significant enough, it means 4% and 34 thousandths, line 157, the finance team must discuss with the project or the coordination team about solutions to balance the budget. The final step of the BMR is to present this recap by family to the operational line, Philco at the project level, and head of mission, who are the budget holders of the project. The budget holder must understand the changes, must validate them or challenge them, and discuss about solutions when there is a risk of overspending budget.